WNST Taos Night Weekend here as the Terps will be playing at 9 p.m. on Friday night. And, of course, the Wizards and the Caps out on the West Coast as well. The Orioles getting us up early in the afternoons on the days when Mr. Angelos gives us baseball. And we're going to have World Baseball Classic all weekend long. This guy's a classic here. He hosted some radio for us at WNST Low these many years ago. He does radio in Philly. He does radio in New York. He does web stuff in Jersey, home state of not just John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen, but also the fabulous Smithereens Band. He is Joe Giglio. You can follow his journey at Joe Giglio Sports as well as at NJ.com. Happy spring to you, Joe. How's the family? How's life, man?
Everything is great, Nestor. How are you? And welcome back to your trip.
Yeah, it's good to be back to reality. And look, man, you've been at this a long time as a fan. I've been at this longer because I'm older. I haven't had a lot of springs like this, right, where, the Ravens are at a really pivotal time. The Orioles look to be on the fade a little bit, look to need a little more pitching. It's going to be a beer league softball run. And how are the Red Sox and the Indians? But more than that, the Capitals, the Wizards, and the Terps have all been very, very compelling. And the Caps maybe more so than any of them, but it's been a great local time here. You don't get to drink that in, often, but spring training's on our mind here. I know you're such a baseball guy as well as a football guy, and, as we look to spring training, I'm worried about the Orioles pitching. I don't think you could fairly assess it and say that you don't think that it's certainly not above par. It could be. It has some possibilities, but there's not a lot of is going on right now, especially with Tillman on the shelf.
No, there's not. That's the worry. I mean, he's been so reliable for them, and he's been the guy they've counted on. I mean, look, Gosman has to emerge this year. I think everybody knows that. Bundy was pretty good the other day, and he's a guy that if he finally takes that next step, they might have enough pitching. It might be par, like you said, and with their offense and the bullpen, that, again, might be enough to exceed expectations, which they seem to do every year with Buck Showalter. The expectations in Vegas and the experts set them around 500 or below, and they always seem to go above that and keep themselves in the mix. So I think they'll be in the mix again, but, it's another year where you don't walk into a season and say the Orioles are favorites to do anything, mostly because that pitching is it's so hard to predict, and even if a couple things go right, probably enough won't go right to put them at the top of the division.
Well, they're going to hit the ball, and, I think getting Trumbo back, I guess on the face of that, I'm fine. The Michael Bourne, the Bourne injury, the Hardy injury, these are these sort of precursor things where it doesn't feel like they're going to have deep depth. I know Buck will, go 14 or 15 pitchers deep before it's all over with. Interesting to see Mike Wright throw the ball well over the weekend when they actually put the game on television around here. I got an opportunity to check that out. But, for me, they're going to wind up starting 9 or 10 or 11 pitchers. Not that is all that rare these days. But, some of these bodies we see down in Sarasota, they're not just, a guy you're not going to hear from anytime. They're all going to be heard from before it's all over with because I think the pitching's going to be thin enough that's going to call for that sort of thing.
No doubt, and that's every team. I mean, some teams have just an outrageous step where they can get away with it, but I think last year, 20 of the 30 teams, ran out 8 or more starters on the regular just because injuries happen or attrition or a guy goes up, down in the minor leagues. So, we used to think of it as 5-man rotations or 4 way back in the day. I mean, it realistically, even if you get lucky, it's 6 or 7, and then if you don't get lucky, it's 8 or 9 or 10. So you need those guys. We talk about the big names, but often I think that playoff spots are determined, Nestor, by what you get out of those guys we're not even talking about now. And if they can give you 15 or 20 decent starts over the year with their offense, that might be enough.
Well, and I'm an old guy, Joe. This is my 25th year, my 26th year now doing spring training every day on the radio. And 26 years ago when we started this, the first decade I did this, including when we founded NST at the turn of the century, this was the time of the year where you really concern yourself with who was coming north and who wasn't. Because if you weren't coming north, unless you were that fifth starter they were hiding at Rochester to make a start in 1997 and bring you up, the thought was, man, he didn't make the team. He didn't make the, you don't ever hear that phrase anymore. He didn't make the team because it's a shuttle bus, especially with Buck Showalter, the extended rosters. And Buck has sort of led the way in that way, in much the way that Buck didn't lead the way in October when we were last seen, where Zach Britton rotted at the end of the pine, and then we saw Andrew Miller and Chapman quite frankly, probably overused through the postseason. I don't know that you can really say that with the season on the line, but, Buck's reluctance to bring in Zach Britton sort of set off a trend in postseason baseball that I quite frankly think we'll see continue, especially when they're paying relievers $10 million and there's a week left in the season, and I need you for two and two-thirds innings tonight. I need you for an inning and a third tomorrow night. I need you to come in the sixth inning tonight because it's game 3. We saw all those shenanigans. That's kind of sort of what Buck does on more of maybe a macro level on a day-by-day basis to say, I'm going to get innings out of this kid on Friday, and I know he's in Toledo tonight, but we have a doubleheader. Buck manages this thing very, very widely from a pitching perspective, and that's sort of catching on.
It is. He thinks big picture. I think other teams are starting to do the same thing with it. It's funny, that's just come full circle. I mean, most of these relief pitchers, if not all of them, are failed starters. And you got to look at a guy like Andrew Miller, Chapman, who could have started. He was a starter in Cuba before he came over. Betances with the Yankees. I mean, these guys are supposed to be big-time starters. It didn't work out for whatever reason. They put him in the bullpen, and someone woke up at some point and said, look, they can go more than an inning. I mean, these guys used to go 6-7 on the routine when they were in the minors or college or Cuba or wherever they came from. So let's just stretch them out. And now it's becoming, as you saw in October, a weapon. The Orioles use it because they use the whole 40-man roster. It's changing everything. And if I'm a team now, unless it's Clayton Kershaw, who's just above and beyond everybody, I don't think I'm paying starting pitchers, $25, $30 million a year because, if you could find 2 or 3 of these guys that become all-stars in your bullpen, you could build a team like that. I mean, the Orioles don't have an all-star starter, and yet they seem to be in the playoff mix every single year.
Well, and the Kansas City Royals were also, the other team putting that together, and I know the Yankees were on the road to trying to do that last year. All right, so you're up there. I mean, you're in and around the Yankees probably more than anywhere else. I know you cover the Phillies and the Mets, and you love baseball. I have been on the Yankees bandwagon, not in any sort of glorification way, but I think they're going to win baseball games this year. I don't think they're going to be a doormat. I don't think they're going to be a dreg. I get mixed reports out of New York, but last I checked, they were an above 500 team last year, and yeah, they're getting younger, but, there's definitely some seasoning there. There's some depth there now in that organization. As much as the Red Sox went and spent all the money on the pitching, some of it suspect, some of it, quite frankly, could be injured at this point. The Yankees worry me.
Yeah, the Yankees could be good, Nestor. I'm with you. I mean, last year, they traded everyone away, basically. Everyone that was really contributing to that baseball team that was a veteran, and they still finished over 500. They actually were better in August without all those guys. Now they have them for a full year. Girardi's a good manager, and the farm system is so stacked now that they're kind of in a spot where they can wait if they want to, and if they're not in it and they're 10 games back, they'll probably just sit tight in July. But if they're in it, they have enough, I think, to go out and make a move and still keep, the integrity of that farm system, not sell it all. They could sell 2 or 3 guys, get a pitcher like a Quintana from the White Sox, and try to win this year while they're building it. They're in a good spot, whether it be this year or next year or the year after. But it wouldn't shock me if we're looking up at the end of July and you say, well, how are the Yankees only 3 games back of the Red Sox? I wouldn't be shocked.
He is Joe Giglio. You can follow his journey at NJ.com and, of course, out at Joe Giglio Sports on Twitter. A one-time WNST weekend host here. He's moved on to his homeland up there, covering all things sports. You can hear him on the radio as well in Philadelphia as well as in New York. But Joe Giglio Sports is his home base out in the world of Twitter. World Baseball Classic, Joe. You're a baseball guy. I'm a baseball guy. By the way, I know you can't see me on the interweb, and we are Facebook friends, but when I link this video out, you'll see my Venezuela World Baseball Classic jersey that I'm wearing right now. So, full support behind my Venezuelan brothers and my U.S. brothers. Dominican game's good, right, this weekend? I guess the question is what good is this? Why are the owners signing up for this and Rob Manfred? Maybe there's a couple of bucks to be made here and again, and I certainly understand that part of the dynamic. But running pitchers out to pitch when they're not ready and pitch counts that sort of artificially taint the series as being nothing more than an exhibition anyway. I can live without it. I'm going to watch it this weekend. I'll pass further judgment on it this weekend. We haven't had a lot of them. I'll see if I feel like it's improved in any way. But certainly from an American standpoint, I don't expect anybody to go running around wrapping the red, white, and blue around this week.
No, it doesn't happen here. It doesn't pop to most fans. I mean, you and I, because we love the sport, we're going to watch it. And if it's on TV, I'll probably watch a baseball game. I always thought it's a good idea, but bad timing. And I don't know how you fix it because I don't know when these players want to play. You're not going to take them out of the game, from the team in the middle of the season. They're not going to want to do it in November. I don't know when the right time to play this thing is. This certainly never felt like it because it's spring training, and these teams just worry so much when these guys go off, especially the pitchers. And then you have a whole bunch of players, especially for Team USA, that are way past their prime in a lot of cases, or not really big leaguers anymore, but just for the hell of it. Like Eric Gagne is in this thing. Eric Gagne hasn't been relevant for years. I mean, I think it's like 13 years ago now that Eric Gagne was that next great closer in baseball. It's been a long time. So when you watch guys like that, Ryan Dempster's part of this. The spectacle is fun. I know it's fun watching, the Venezuelan team. It's fun watching the Dominican team because it means so much to their fans down there. I mean, you could just see it in the building. For people,
I just like the shirt, Joe. I came for the T-shirt, man. It's just like going to the Jersey Shore. I go for the shirt, man.
That works. Whatever works for you. I'll watch it, but Ness, you and I know it's not going to be a big talking point here.
Yeah, but it needs to be talked about because you know what? Somebody's going to get hurt next week.
Unfortunately, you're right. It happens every year, and then you look back and you say that team's season might have been ruined because of this.
Well, and that's why I say, why do this? Why fly, guys? Jonathan Scope flying halfway around the world. I'm just crossing my fingers and watching with my fingers, sort of webbed out, looking between my eyes. But I also got Big Ten. I got the Caps. I got the Wizards. I got other stuff that's more pressing and more relevant, I guess. Games that sort of matter are all over basketball this weekend. So, they kind of picked a weird time to compete with that and golf and quite frankly themselves. I mean, spring training should be selling itself. How does it feel to you, Joe? I mean, do you sit and watch a lot of spring training baseball? I mean, Mr. Angelos doesn't deem it necessary on the only network that matters. The only reason the network would matter would be to put their baseball games on. It would seem to me that every afternoon they should have a camera down there. The Orioles and the Nationals don't have that because they're poorly run.
Yeah, that's shocking to him. It's not, and it is at the same time. That my time down there, I'm not shocked at what you're saying. But being up here, and I have, I'm in the area where I can get both Philadelphia and New York stations. I mean, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Phillies. Virtually every spring training game is on, and
as it should be. It's stupid.
And a lot of
business
times,
to not put it
Nestor,
on.
they replay it. So, I'll be home in the afternoon just writing and working, and it'll just be on the background. And then at night, I'll just be scrolling around, and I'll see they'll be replaying it because what else are they going to play? It's March. It's surprising. I mean, that's a disservice to fans who, if you're working at home during the day or in the office, you want to pop a TV on. The game should be on.
I can't find anyone to ask that question. Sean Spicer was unavailable, Joe. Greg Bader unavailable for comment as to what. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, you're trying to sell tickets. You're trying to sell enthusiasm. You're trying to show people your young players. You're trying to flash your stars. You're trying to sell Adam Jones. And more than that, another thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense around here, Joe, you know where I'm going with this because it's your cable television money up there as a great citizen of the state of New Jersey, just like Bruce Springsteen, I want to point out again. It's your money that funds Manny Machado to the Mets or Yankees or Phillies, which is all we hear about here. I mean, if the Kevin Durant thing was a, big, ripe, juicy tomato by the time it was, 4 years into talking about it, we're at the beginning of that period where this Machado thing gets discussed and what happens to your resident superstar when he puts pinstripes on 2 years from now. And what do you do if you fall out of the race and you can go get half of those Yankees prospects to get him?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, the countdown has begun, and the interesting part is it's one thing for people here to speculate, and with all the teams. I mean, the Yankees certainly have been clearing out money. The Phillies have the ties to Machado. And they have a ton of money to spend too, so it's natural that it's being talked about here. But I read a story in the Sun a couple of weeks ago. One of the outlets down there was talking about Machado and hasn't been approached. They haven't really talked at all and made any progress on an extension. So
we have a term for that here. It's called standard operating procedure. It's the PGA playbook, Joe. We're watching it unfold, and I'm glad I don't have to sit here and take phone calls all day every day about people bitching about it because it feels like a foregone conclusion, right? It just feels like he's gone, but it felt like Chris Davis was gone. It did.
Sure it did. And when that bidding got as up as high as it did, I was surprised that he went back there. But this probably even is to a different level, just with the money. And I don't think anyone really knows what we're looking at here, but we could, just considering the age, the talent, the production. He and Harper, I mean, $300 million is probably putting it lightly. They'll probably both break what Giancarlo Stanton a few years ago did, 325. I mean, the numbers could be off the charts, and I can't see the Orioles paying it. I would guess you can't either.
Well, you know what? I'll see it. I'll see it when I see it. But I said that about Chris Davis, and it feels to me, even a year into this, I didn't urinate on them spending money on Chris Davis, but it was obviously an Angelos deal. I mean, it was tied to ticket sales, season ticket renewals, all of this bizarreness, and they've got money tied up in him right now. If Chris Davis hit the market tomorrow, what would he get?
He wouldn't get what he got from the Orioles, that's for sure. Especially with, it feels like there's been a pushback on power hitters.
Absolutely.
There's more for the all-around game and defense and running the bases. Yeah, there's no way he'd get that money on the open market now.
He is Joe Giglio. Joe Giglio Sports is the way to find him out on Twitter as well as at NJ.com. Last thing for you, in just at 50,000 feet, this NFL free agency thing's something, isn't it? I mean, I don't ever sort of circle it in red in my calendar where it's going to be a free-for-all from now through Sunday. There's going to be more deals, more comings, more goings, more speculation, more tampering, because there's so much money there, right? I mean, and guys, good players like Brandon Williams and Ricky Wagner on our side of the fence get there. Good players like Brandon Marshall and Torrey Smith and Nick Mangold find themselves out on the street. It really is a scramble, and this second season of the NFL from now through the draft is really where your bread's buttered, and everybody wants to do what the Cowboys did last year, or maybe what the Giants did, which was sign a bunch of players in free agency and have it pan out, and you become a better football team, or draft your ass off and get a couple of future Ray Lewis's and Ed Reeds running around here.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL has set this up perfectly because everyone feels like they have a chance. Everyone feels like they're a couple players away, one good offseason, like you were saying, however you do it, one good offseason from going from 4-12 to 13-3. So every fan base is engaged in this. And because it feels like, 90% of the teams have significant cap space, some of them, we're talking about 60, 70, 80, $100 million, every team feels like, hell, we could do something here. We could bring in 3 or 4 really good players and change everything. So everyone is glued to their, whether it be their TV or their phone. Everyone's paying attention to the NFL this week just the way the NFL wants it.
So I'm going to ask you the stock question I ask all my NFL coverers and followers. What did the Patriots do to cheat this year?
That's a good question. Maybe we find out that Tom Brady is being paid under the table, which I think we all kind of know he is because his cap number among quarterbacks is always one of the lowest.
Dude, listen to me. When Putin took the Patriots Super Bowl ring, something was going on in there. I don't know what it is. I can't say. People are talking. That's all I'm saying.
Look, they're cheating, and they'll probably win the Super Bowl again next year, Nestor. We both know it.
They had a big league year, didn't they?
They did. So certainly did.
All right, well, we'll get on to the Ravens here. We'll be licking our wounds here and waiting for opening day and hoping for Chris Tillman and waiting on Michael Bourne and hoping about Manny Machado. And I'm sure our paths will cross, talk some more baseball later on. Always a pleasure catching up with you, my man. We got to do a Phillies game, meet halfway one night, man.
Let's do it, Nestor. Looking forward to it.
Well, I'll bring the cheesesteak. You bring the pretzels. How about that? I like the soft pretzels up there.
Sounds like a deal. I'll bring a couple.
You got it. Joe Giglio Sports is the way to find him out on Twitter as well as at NJ.com. Joe Giglio, good dude, does radio in Philly and in New York and got a little piece of his start with us at WNST.net, and he now has a wonderful picture of his family as well as George Costanza on the front of his Twitter page. You can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Download the TuneIn Radio app, and we come in crystal clear from wherever you are, including Auckland, New Zealand, and Manapuri, New Zealand. If you got Wi-Fi, you could listen, because I did. I checked it out. I just wanted to see how far our signal went, because I remember those complaints back in the 90s. You can also get the morning newspaper delivered to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed, and bikini season's around the corner, so it is coming soon. No doubt about that. We'll be with the Terps on Friday night. Luke Jones and I will be there, and we will be awaiting all of these tectonic plates of the National Football League shifting with quarterbacks and signings and cuttings and street free agents and all sorts. There's going to be a ton of texts coming your way. They're all going to be brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5, getting you ready for a very, very busy weekend of basketball, bracketology. Got good stuff ahead, man. It's a lot of fun this time of year to be talking about all these mixed issues with so much on the line. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We broadcast live on Facebook Live, where you can see my fantastic Venezuela World Baseball Classic shirt, as well as on YouTube and our WNSTV channel, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook Live. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.